stayed an extra day here in Dublin, Ireland, really to just try to get more of an experience here than 3 or 4 days of work. But I got to tell you, on more levels than one, this felt like a job well done. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey, I also offer daily shots of Penguins that I hope you'll also check out. I am flying back today, but I feel like after 24 additional hours to absorb not only the city, but also the Steelers' 24-21 victory over the Vikings, I'm reminded of how I felt about this schedule when it was released several months ago, where I viewed this trip not just because it's so far from home and all the flying time and the jet lag and all the other factors, even the early bye week. Beyond all of that, I saw these first 4 games as being pivotal. I'm not using the word pivotal the way it's sometimes used, which is important. I mean pivotal as in they were going to decide which direction the season was going to go. Now, if I strip that down, I could very easily have condensed that to, boy, it sure would be wonderful to be 3-1 heading into the bye week and having your roughest trip out of the way. But that, of course, wouldn't come close to summarizing the way the season's gone to date, the challenges that have had to be overcome already, and the challenges that are sitting there on the horizon. And in that context, this was still really pivotal. Maybe even more so than what I'd anticipated, because it hasn't just been about the record. The Steelers were 2-1, and they were terrible. They were terrible at most things. So when they came over here, and this was supposed to be the Steelers' toughest opponent to date, the Vikings, of course, come here without J.J. McCarthy. They're forced to start Carson Wentz. The Steelers have their own guys getting hurt or going out. But within the victory, as I went over on yesterday's show, so many different areas were upgraded. So many different individual players who hadn't been performing well at all got a whole lot better for whatever reason. And there was one big benefit that was added in as a result. And that's something that I talked to a lot of the players about after the game here. And that's that they could go into the bye week. They could feel good about themselves. They could feel good about the team and where it's headed instead of worrying about everybody else being bad if they think they're good. And from there, they could just disconnect. Some guys already were talking about where they're going to go and what they're going to do for this bye. I mean, they're going to have a little bit of activity over the next couple of days, but then Thursday through Sunday, the players are going to be 100% off. And from talking to guys in the past and from what a couple of them mentioned here after the game, they've got plans. They're not just going to lounge around and watch TV. They're going to detach. And you want that. You also want, of course, to be the first place team in the AFC North. You also want, of course, for the Ravens to be 1-3 and completely devastated by multiple injuries. Not to say that I'm wishing injuries upon people, but you get what I'm saying. And within all of that, you want the Steelers to be in a spot where the injuries that they've just incurred can benefit from the bye week. Now, Calvin Austin, I told you when I saw him in one of the concourses after the game, after he'd come back from the brief trip to the hospital for his shoulder injury. And that didn't look great. He was in some pain. And I know that he went on social media and told everybody, hey, thanks for the kind wishes and all that stuff. But That's going to be a tough one. The same thing I believe will apply to Jalen Ramsey because he aggravated a hamstring injury. His position obviously requires him to be at maximum everything from a strength and stretching standpoint. We'll see how that goes. But again, I boomerang back to the one thing that I never saw coming here. And that's that they would have addressed the Steelers collectively, individually, so many shortcomings in a single game. They were able to block. Yeah, of course, Spencer Anderson had an impact on that, but just overcoming any potential stubbornness there to put Spence out there, great. They utilized Darnell Washington more. They got more aggressive defensively. They simplified things defensively. One of the players told me that was really important for them. They got tired of always wondering where they're supposed to be, and they were instead just told, go play football. Well, they went and played football, and they played it pretty well. So much to like, so much to build off, and so much to feel good about in the moment, but also applied toward where October is going to take shape. See, they can't say stuff like this, but I can. Their next two games are against the two Ohio teams. I don't need to pile on. I don't need to point out even the positives. The Browns having themselves a pretty nice defense. The Browns having done a little bit of winning that wasn't expected. They are, as Juju Smith-Schuster once pointed out, still the Browns. Or he said it something like that. Then comes the trip to Cincinnati. The Bengals might have the worst defense anywhere. And they won't have Joe Burrow. So from there, you take 3-1. You maybe make it 5-1. This is the part I was saying that they can't talk about, but I can. And just keep building. Keep stacking, as Mike Tomlin tells his players. Put yourself in a stronger stance heading into the 3 games against the Packers, the Colts, and then against the Chargers way out in LA. And now you're really beginning to put things together before the Bengals and the Bears take you into Thanksgiving. And after that, it's, Buffalo and Ravens. And listen, the schedule is going to be the schedule. From the end of November onward, it's Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Browns again, and Ravens again. But I can't be convinced right now that the Steelers aren't in a significantly better step on the overall ladder right now than they were before flying over here. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action. Hey guys, if you're planning to see a Steelers game, use the Game Time app to get your tickets. You can snag new ticket deals before anyone if you set it into your app alerts. The app is easy to use. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view before buying, and you're getting legit tickets delivered on time. If you're not much of a planner, you can get last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app and enter the code DK Steelers into your app profile to get $20 off your first purchase.
Today's J1Q comes from Matt, who says, DK, I heard your comment on the Monday show about Pat Freiermuth looking a little sullen in the locker room after the game over there, possibly because of his low snap count at 15. Then I read comments from some of the readers on the app suggesting that Pat is at best average. But if Pat is upset, what about Jonnu Smith, only finished with 13 snaps. Isn't the low snap count for both of them really just attributable to the fact that the Steelers used Spencer Anderson so much more as a tight end eligible offensive lineman, along with more action for Darnell Washington in the same game? Yes, it is. And yes, Matt, that's something that I should have taken into consideration and brought up. But what makes me happiest about you bringing it up is that we can look at another level of this usage for Spence and Darnell and suggest that for all our discussion all season long, really all summer long, about the offensive line, that part of what wasn't good enough, nearly good enough, through the first 3 games was the blocking of those other tight ends. I'll remind, this did come up in the summertime, that neither Freiermuth nor Smith are, superstars in this category. They're known for their receiving. Well, to date, Freiermuth has only 7 catches in the 4 games, this on 10 targets for 65 yards. Smith, who had 88 catches for the Dolphins last year, led all receivers on the Miami roster, has 14 catches on 16 targets through his 4 games for 71 yards. They're both well below where they would normally be. But to take them off the field, which is what happened here Sunday, and to say, listen, we value what you do and everything, but we got to block. And somebody's got to come off the field. And we believe that by putting Spence out there, by having more Darnell, we're going to get better blocking. And we need that right now a lot more than we need bonus tight end route running. If you go back to Arthur Smith's head coaching days in Atlanta, he made no secret that if his tight ends weren't going to block, they weren't going to play. And that's because he needs them to block. It's not optional the way he has things set up. Taking this even further, he finally got Ben Skoranek back into the mix. Remember how effective Skoranek was in the opener in East Rutherford? Then he just kind of disappeared. Well, Skoranek was everywhere. And he ended up with more offensive snaps. Let's count his special team stuff. Offensive snaps than either of those 2 tight ends that we're talking about here. He had 18. And Darnell's, by the way, in case you're wondering, were 48. That's out of a total of 53. Dude never left the field, pretty much. The only people who saw more snaps were Aaron Rodgers and all 5 starting offensive linemen. That's it, meaning on that side of the ball. So here again, if there was a message that Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin were trying to send, this was the right time. This was the right place. This is a better football team now. And I've just got to add, it will be fascinating to continue to watch how this plays out. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. I am flying back to Pittsburgh today. I will have a lot of time on that aircraft. They do have Wi-Fi on Iceland Air. And I would love the opportunity to be able to kill some of that clock by answering your emails. Download the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. That's free. Then email me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, to get a heavily discounted version of our full premium level, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. Thanks for following along with everything that we offered you from this side of the ocean.